What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Big Five Pod, episode number 79. Cope, the first episode in the month of March in 2024. We are here. We were almost here before the last one, but we're officially here now, and we're so back. Cope, how you doing?
It's a little early, Kyle. I got a cup of coffee with me. I have my basketball with me. We're ready to roll. It's March. What's better than
March.
this? Huge game for Villanova tonight. Huge game they just had on Saturday that we'll talk about. Big games all around. Conference tournament chaos going on. The number one and the number three seeds have already been knocked out of the Atlantic Sun tournament. I just watched UNLV honestly dominate San Diego State last night, Kyle. There's six teams that are headed to the NCAA tournament from the Mountain West. And guess what, Kyle? Four of them are behind UNLV in the standings to watch as a potential bid stealer. So it's March. The madness is here. It's already happening, Kyle. You don't have to wait for the first game. You don't have to wait for that bracket coming out. It always delivers, and it certainly has thus far.
And that's what people don't realize, man. These conference tournaments, especially the low major ones, mid major ones, even the high major ones, obviously sometimes too, are incredible. So we're already here. We've been here. And it's going to keep getting even better these next 3 or so weeks. So why don't we get right into it, Cope? I see you got that ball on you. That means you've got some quick hitters to go over. So we've got some Cope's quick hitters right now. Cope, run that break for me. Let's get it started.
Okay, real quick. We're going to start with some player news and then a scheduling note for next year. So in the Columbia game this week, it was the second game of Penn's weekend doubleheader at the Palestra. Clark Slacker, Kyle, welcome to the 1,000 Point Club. Jameer Brickus and Khalil Brantley, I believe, hit that this year. If they didn't hit I think one of them hit 1,500, but we've seen a couple 1,000 point scores this season in the Big Five, or at least people hitting a 1,500, 2,000 point milestone. So good for Clark Slacker. Obviously a rough year for Penn, but they were able to get a win over Columbia 84-72 at home that we might touch on. But congrats, Clark Slacker, hitting 1K for his career. And then finally, a scheduling note for next year. Villanova going to play Maryland in the 2024 Empire Classic. I know it's usually hosted at Madison Square Garden. Dates, location to be determined on that. But I know what you're saying. Cope, why do we care? It's March. Why are you telling us about a non-conference game next year that has no date or no location yet? The big winner here, Kevin Willard, because he had trouble winning at the Finn when he was at Seton Hall. Maryland scored 40 points in a very, very bad offensive performance at the Finn this year. So Kevin Willard's the winner here. He doesn't have to play basketball against Villanova at the Finn.
Yeah, I know you're a big fan of Kevin Willard. We only that could be a discussion for another day.
Yeah.
But I know you're a huge Kevin Willard guy, uh, from his days at Seton Hall and of course at Maryland now too. So yeah. All right, Cope. Speaking of Seton Hall, actually, we're not going to get into that right now. But like you said, it is March. We've got conference tournaments coming up, and we have the first of the conference tournaments that involve Big Five teams set, and that would be the CAA, where Drexel finished strong as the number 2 seed, winning 4 of their last 5. They finished 13-5 in the conference, 2 games behind Charleston, who once again finished first in the conference. They went 15-3 in CAA play this year. So bracket set. They are going to be facing the winner of the 7 seed Stony Brook versus 10 seed Northeastern game. 2 teams that they had success against this season. And then if they win that, that's where things might get a little interesting. If they win that, they would face the winner of um, trying to find it. The winner of Hofstra and either Delaware or another play-in winner. So got some time before that happens. That would be those. So their first game is on Sunday. Cope on Flow Hoops, of course. Sunday at 6 p.m. Down there in DC on Flow Hoops. And then if they win, they would be playing at 8:30 on CBS Sports, and then they would be playing if they made the championship on Tuesday, March 12th, 7 p.m. CBS Sports. So obviously a lot of variables have to happen before those last 2 things happen. They for sure have a game on Sunday at 6 on Flow Hoops. Got to say that quietly for Cope over here. Listen, I don't like Flow Hoops either, but we don't need to talk about that. Cope, what is your outlook for the Dragons? Finishing pretty hot here. They ended up beating a Delaware team on the road. They've won against some teams that they should have beaten. They're gearing up for conference play. What are your expectations for the Dragons as they head into, potentially playing either Stony Brook or Northeastern, and then maybe Hofstra or one of the other two teams?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, you bring up those two teams, and they literally the last two teams they have beaten have been Northeastern and Stony Brook. So there
Yep.
definitely is some familiarity here with those two teams. Um, but look, like the expectation here is nothing short of to win the title. They got some help. How about Hofstra and Towson beating UNC Wilmington, allowing Drexel to move into that top spot or excuse me, into that second spot where there was a logjam of three teams for a little bit. So obviously the expectation is nothing short of that's what needs to happen. And guess what? If you want to do that, you're going to have to go through Hofstra, Charleston, or UNC Wilmington again, barring an upset, which it seems like there's a couple teams that really have separated themselves here. Um, and another thing what I've talked about with Drexel this season is their losses in conference play are coming on the road. So to be at a neutral court year where you don't have to go to Trask Coliseum and play UNC Wilmington, you don't have to go to Towson, you don't have to go up to Long Island and play Hofstra. Like I think on a neutral court here, I really really like their chances. But like I said, like there's four or five really good teams. I believe Delaware a couple years ago, Colin, when they lost to Villanova in the first round, they were the 5 seed in the CAA, and
Yeah.
that was the lowest seed that had ever won the conference tournament before. So, barring something we've never seen before, it's going to come from one of Charleston, Drexel, Hofstra, UNC, Wilmington, and Towson. That Drexel has beaten these teams, but I also mentioned lost on the road at UNC Wilmington, lost on the road at Hofstra, lost on the road at Towson. On a neutral court, I like their chances in a close game to potentially get there. But again, you have to go through those really good teams. That's what it's going to be. I don't think they're going to have an issue with whoever comes out because, like I said, they literally just beat both these teams at home. The Stony Brook game definitely a little closer than it should have been, but Justin Moore potentially playing his best game all year to get him over the hump. Um, but nice that they have a little layoff here. They have some time off, but they should absolutely win that first game, Kyle. And then it comes down to, like I said, you need to beat two of the next. You need to beat two of the top five from there, barring a miracle run by somebody to control your own destiny. I think there's a lot of really good teams in the CAA. Like I think that top four is actually pretty damn good, but they're gonna have to go through one of them. And that's what the reality is here. I don't think they're gonna have an issue with whoever comes out of that play-in game, but if you want it, you're gonna have to win some really really tough games against some really really good opponents, albeit on a neutral floor for them. But that's what it is. With them bringing back all the minutes they had with Amari Williams, who could potentially win a third defensive player of the year in the conference in a row, and probably will. The expectation is nothing short than to cut the nets down in DC and hear their name called on Selection Sunday, and I think they can do that. Sunday, though, I'm hoping if they do take a loss, it's definitely not on Sunday because those are two teams they should not lose to.
100%. And listen, if they do get past those two teams, one of those two teams, which I think they will, and you mentioned, the road obviously gets tougher. You have to beat two of the top four other teams in the conference. Uh, Welcome to March. I mean, that's what you have to do in March. You have to beat tough teams. You have to beat tough teams on a neutral court, which of course, like you mentioned, benefits them because when they've lost in the conference play, they've mainly lost on the road, and they mainly lost to these good teams on the road. Um, so they were going to have to do this anyway. It's very rare that teams catch insane breaks in both conference tournament play and NCAA tournament play, but specifically in conference tournament play. It doesn't happen like an insane amount. Obviously, you see upsets like we just talked about the ASUN tournament to open the show, but they're likely going to have to run through some good teams, especially in this conference where you mentioned that the lowest seed to ever win was the 5 seed, and that was Delaware a couple of years ago. So we know what they have to do. It's going to be a difficult road, but they're going to be on a neutral site. They're not going to be away. It's it's doable. It's very doable, and their expectation, like you said, should be to cut down the nets because when they are playing their best basketball, can beat anybody, and that includes a Charleston team that's been scorching hot over the last month or two. Uh, so yes, I fully expect them to at least get to the semifinals. After that, we'll see what happens because, like you said, there are some good teams in this conference. They would have to play most likely Hofstra and then either UNCW or Charleston in the championship, who they both lost to this year. Um, so it'll be tough, but I do expect them to make a good run. And once you get into that semifinals, you never know what can happen. At least I know it won't be on Flow Sports. So we can take solace in that. All right, Cope. Speaking of tournaments, we're not quite at the Big East tournament yet. But we can start to talk about Villanova's NCAA tournament hopes here. Not that we haven't yet, but we can talk about them being on the inside looking out because after their win this weekend against Providence, this is my opinion. This, I think, is a bracketologist opinion, consensus around college basketball. But I think as of right now, they are in and they're looking at a 10 seed, at least according to the latest brackets updates from Joey Brackets, Joe Lenardi at ESPN. They're looking at a 10 seed right now. He has them playing against Gonzaga, which would be an incredible matchup. Would be your Super Bowl too, because I know how much you love Gonzaga. And you can talk about that in a second. But listen, we know that they had to win probably at least 2 out of 3 between Providence, Creighton, and Seton Hall. Got it done against Providence. We're not going to be able to really preview the Seton Hall game because we are recording this on Wednesday and the game is on Wednesday. So we're not going to be able to talk about the result of that. We can talk about obviously potential ramifications of the game, win or lose. And then they've closed their season at the Wells Fargo Center against Creighton, which we obviously know how much the Cats love playing at Wells Fargo. They had a good result against Creighton there last year. So things are looking up for Villanova. I think if they win one of the last 2 games against Seton Hall or Creighton, they're for sure in. If they lose both, I think they have to win a conference tournament game to get in there. But I think ultimately, at the end of the day, I see Villanova getting in the tournament. Cope, what do you make of these Wildcats right now?
Yeah, so again, Kyle, how about this defense? 23 points Providence scored in the second half. Villanova again holding a team to 60. This is the third time since February 1st they have let an opponent reach the 60-point mark. This game, when they beat Butler, they gave up 62, and then when they lost to UConn on Saturday, they gave up 78. But again, you have to go to Gamble Pavilion on a Saturday where there's nothing else to do in town but drink. The place is going nuts, and it's the #1 team in the country. So we're not going to hold it against Villanova for that. But they're losing in the first half, Kyle. 18-2 run coming out of halftime. Brendan Housen, he took 3 shots in this game, Kyle. And Brendan Housen, he made 3 shots in this game. 3 of 3 from the 3-point line. As a team, 13-23, Kyle. You're not going to get that every night because you can't shoot 56% from 3 every night. But we talked early in the season. If they're going to jack up all these threes, they're not going to make them. This is going to be an issue. But if this is going to happen, parlay that with the defense, they're going to be a team that you don't want to see. Not only in the Big East tournament, but if they continue to build some momentum and have a deep run in the Big East tournament, Kyle, you're not going to want to see them in the NCAA tournament either. So really good performance there. Justin Moore, by the way, the biggest takeaway from this game was him. 4-6 from the 3-point line. He looks like himself now, which is huge. When he can score in double figures like that, he really is. I never thought I'd say he's the X factor because I knew he was going to play and as one of the leaders on this team, you knew that he was going to produce. But him coming back from that injury, he looks like he's the healthiest he's ever been. And with a healthy Justin Moore, they're potentially as dangerous as we thought they could be in the preseason and early in the season. So that's my biggest takeaway is Justin Moore coming back because having him is absolutely crucial to any success this team is going to have in the postseason. But the defense, again, holding Devin Carter, he averages just over 19 points a game, 5 of 13, only at 13 points in this game as well. And a really good coach game from Kyle Neptune as well, Kyle. So lots to like here. But guess what? In typical Villanova fashion, they say our biggest game is our next game, and guess what? That remains true because not only was Villanova they get into the 10 seed line with the last 4 byes for Joey Brackets, but guess what? That next team that's behind them, which is like the first of the last 4 in, so to speak, is Seton Hall.
Yep.
After they just played a bubble team, so no rest for these Wildcats. I'll be at the game tonight. Very excited. First time at the Prudential Center. I'm sure it's a good place. Going to be going nuts. There's nothing more you could want in this game, Kyle. 2 Big East teams on the bubble, also playing for some seeding in the Big East tournament to avoid playing on that first night. Without looking at the standings in front of me, believe there's a shot that Nova, if they continue this path to run and they win out, they'll be in that 4-5 game on Thursday. So, there's that as well. If you want to avoid, now you played DePaul first in the first game, so you might as well, just be running at the YMCA against those guys. I mean, they got drubbed again by St. John's last night, but
Listen, I mean, Villanova's never lost at DePaul in the tournament. I could tell you that much.
yeah, ridiculous. They are, oof, man, that team is bad. But anyway, point being, tough game tonight that not only has bubble implications, but also there's still, the bracket is not set for the Big East tournament yet. So there's that as well. But literally two teams that are right next to each other on the bubble. So
Yeah.
huge, huge game with the potential to set tonight.
Listen, I got the standings up in front of me. Obviously, UConn, Marquette, Creighton, that's the big three. Seton Hall, 11 and 7, Villanova, 10 and 8, Providence and St. John's both sitting at 10 and 9. Uh, Big game, Cope. Big game. They can get into that top four. That would be ginormous for them. Um, I don't think they have a chance to pass Creighton at all. I'd have to look at Creighton's schedule, but yeah, I mean, getting into that top four would be very, very, very beneficial for them. And you talked about it, and I don't think I need to get into it even more. Yeah, they aren't able to pass Creighton, I don't think.
Yeah.
Um,
Top five is really what you're looking for. The four
yeah,
and the five are going to play each other.
yeah.
So if you, as
So
long as
either
the
way.
top five avoid the first day.
Yes. So they beat Seton Hall, and then, hopefully the result goes their way against Creighton or goes against Seton Hall. Either way, um, they're looking at a matchup against Seton Hall most likely. Obviously, it also depends on Providence, St. John's because they're right there at 10 wins as well. But this is a big game against Seton Hall that, unfortunately, by the time this posts, we're not going to know the result of it, but we're going to hope it went well for the Wildcats. And then the game against Creighton, I don't want to say it's not important, but I think this game obviously is against Seton Hall is the most important of the two because Seton Hall is right there with them on the bubble. So if they can knock them down a little bit before conference tournament starts, it would be absolutely huge for them. All right, Cope, a team that probably doesn't have tournament implications, but we're going to talk about. We do have a limited amount of time here, but we are going to talk about the LaSalle Explorers, because they have won now 4 out of 5 after their win this weekend against George Washington in a game that you were at, and a very significant game, Cope, because it was the last game at what we now know as Tom Gola Arena. Uh, Tell me about your experience there and what happened. And, I know there was a lot of alumni in the building. I know they did some, ceremonies and stuff. Obviously, very nostalgic. It's a gym that's been around for a while, especially for you, having been a student there for a year. So tell me what that experience was like, because I think not only do I want to know, but I think all the LaSalle fans and Big Five fans are curious about how that went.
Yeah, it was really cool to see them honor the building, but then everyone who had been there as well, obviously, and double that it was senior day as well. So you have a guy like Jameer Brickus and Anwar Gill that have played there for 4 years, and then you've shout out to Tommy Gardlow. He just got put on scholarship this year. He started this game and played the first 7 minutes before Khalil Brantley came in for him. But in the second half, they brought out a bunch of former players to honor them. They had a video playing at halftime and pregame, saying like this has been the place since for 2 decades that the LaSalle Explorers have played in. So, the court storm against Villanova, the one against Butler, like with Brad Stevens there, like some nice shots of that. Yeah, a bunch of alumni in the building. I got to see if you're a part of the LaSalle community in any way, even just for a guy like me, he was only there for 1 year. The legendary brother Jerry Molyneux. Got to see him. He was one of my professors. He's been there, Kyle, I think twice as long as I've been alive. I think last year he just celebrated 50 years at LaSalle
Wow.
University as a professor there. So he was one of my professors during my freshman year. I got to see him again. He's always even when I transferred, he still would keep in contact with me. He's such a sweet man and a nice guy, and literally a pillar, like the type of guy you name a street after, Kyle.
Wow.
Um, for him, so got to see him and talk to him for a little bit. He always sits under the baseline because he's big time there. He's definitely the boss. He can sit wherever he wants. So it was nice to see him. And then hey, how about the game? How about
About
the
the
game?
game.
GW, like they have a bunch of injuries. They only played 6 guys. Um, and although they made a surge late, they got the lead in the second half. LaSalle fought back. Kyle Deshaun Shepard. I asked Fran Dunphy about this post game. He had a scoreless stretch. He had a 2 game stretch. He didn't score. He only like his response to that followed up with 7 straight games in double figures, including a putback dunk that sealed it for him. I
Hmm.
mean, this guy came out. It's like they just dropped him from the rafters, like he was gritty at a Flyers game. Came and dunked this ball back. He like he's really one of the more like underappreciated dunkers, and like his bounce is out of this world. I'll put him up there with some of
No,
the best in this.
he's
Even Dunphy, who's think of how many guys he's coached, said never seen anyone do it quite like that, like quite like Shepard. So a really good game for him. And I'm telling you, this was a LaSalle's men's basketball social media account. I believe the tweet was, "That's how you close out an arena," when he dunked that ball back. It was over two or three guys. He comes out of nowhere. There's a missed, I think it was a missed layup or a missed runner, and then you have Shepard, who comes from the left wing. He's starts behind the 3-point line, comes in and dunks this ball home. So, yeah, very nostalgic. A lot of alumni there, which is really, really nice to see. And more importantly, a lot of players, Kyle, that had been there and had played there for the entirety that that building has been open. So really, really cool to be there for the last one. Um, I was at the press conference, and then I walked back up just to take it in for another second, just to sit there. And like I said last episode, it has its flaws. It's hot, it's small, kind of looks like a high school gym. I think there was bats in the ceiling one time, somebody said, but at the end of the
there's a
day,
pool
it's
under it.
yeah, well, I don't see that as a flaw at all.
No, it's not a flaw,
Yeah,
but it's definitely
it's
something
just
you don't see
awesome.
that
It's
very
awesome.
often. You don't
It
see that
makes it
very often.
yeah, it makes it what it is. So
Yeah.
yeah, as a guy who was only there for 1 year, I danced really poorly in the front of my frat's Greek week dance routine, and then that's where I had my college orientation. Like I think an hour or so after I had to say goodbye to my mom, which was a very sad,
Mm,
you know, your college like parting moment. So
of course.
yeah, a lot of good memories in that gym, even just being there for 1 year. But all around with all, and it was a really really good crowd there too, Kyle. It was a really really good crowd there too. So and I think it was senior day, alumni day, obviously the whole thing with the gym. So really really cool game to go see, and how they honored the gym. And then I saw a video from Ash Perry, the AD at LaSalle. The game was Saturday, and by Sunday and Monday, construction crews are in there taking the
They're
bleachers out.
digging.
So, hey, they have limited time. They're on a time crunch, Kyle. They got to be ready for next basketball season. They don't have time to waste here. So it was fun to be there for that game and experience that. But time's ticking, and that place has to get done for next basketball season. I'm very excited to go see the new Glazer Arena.
Yeah, me as well. We are gonna have to be there. Hopefully, we can be there on opening night for it next year. That would be something. But I'm excited to see. I mean, we talked about some of the renderings and things that they were introducing for it at the beginning of the season. So really excited to see all that get in action. But yeah, it seemed like it was a very nostalgic day, but a great one as well. And obviously, most importantly, they got the win. Um, Always want to close out the arena with a win, especially with that putback dunk by Deshaun Shepard. Um, as for LaSalle for this season, they're now 11th in the A10. I think they can move up as high as ninth. Yeah, high as ninth. Um, so going into the A10 tournament, we'll see what happens. Last year, I think they were around the same thing, and they made a little bit of a run. So we can see what happens there. And obviously, we'll do a quick mention here to St. Joe's as well because they beat Fordham this weekend. They're sitting at 8-8 in the A10, about 4 spots above LaSalle. So they're gonna have some work to do too. Obviously, we talked about their tournament hopes all season. Has looked bleak as of the last month because they have just not been playing good basketball. I think we can all agree on that. Um, but they're gonna definitely gonna have some interesting uh interesting end of the season here for them in the A10 tournament as well. Obviously the last games are on Saturday, and then we get into conference tournaments for everyone. So very, very excited for that. Cope, listen, I was gonna say that's like almost all the time we have, but we have something we got to tell the people about. You know what I'm saying? Now,
Fair do.
at this point, we will have announced it on socials. So everyone will know about this who cares to know about this. But if you're watching this for the first time and you don't know about this, or you want some more information on what we did announce, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Brackets Eve. Not quite yet, obviously, but in 2 weeks on Wednesday, March 20th, from 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. During the last 16 seed matchup of the first four there in Dayton, we're going to be doing a live show, streaming on YouTube called Brackets Eve. We're going to be covering everything there is to need to know about this year's NCAA tournament bracket. We're going to go over all the picks in the first round, We're going to have our Final Four picks, championship picks, teams that we're high on, teams that we're not. Cope, I know we can probably name a few already off the top of my head or top of your head as well, but we're going to go over all the matchups. Um, it's going to be an really, really exciting day, exciting night, and our first ever live show, which I'm really, really excited about. Bless you, Cope.
Thank you.
And we're just excited to be able to talk about the NCAA tournament with you guys. We're going to have a bracket in our hands. I know we always talk about Big Five basketball. We're hoping some Big Five teams can be in there as well, so we can cater to that a little bit too. But it's a really, really big time of the year. That stretch from Sunday to Wednesday or Thursday afternoon before the tournament starts, people are getting their picks in, and we want to be there for you to make sure you're making the right picks, winning your bracket pools, winning whatever there is need to win. So, Cope, I don't know if you have anything to say about this, but we are very excited to bring this to you.
Yes. Would you like to reveal our guest? You worked very hard on this. I would like to give you the liberty to do that if you'd like.
I want to, but I'm going to wait until they are 100% confirmed because I did hear from a couple guests and they did say that they should be in, but we're gonna find out. So I'm not going to reveal them 100% yet, just out of respect to them. But we do have some potential guests. We could have even more depending on which Big Five teams make the NCAA tournament as well. So we are planning on having guests is the other thing too. So it's not just going to be us blabbering about the NCAA tournament for an hour and a half. Um, but we're very, very excited to bring this to you. So,
Yeah,
yes.
right on. And you worked very hard on this, so I'm very, very happy for you that you were able to put this together for us. I'm very excited to take part in it. And what's better than brackets? What's better than brackets?
Brackets.
Additionally, Kyle, in the next coming, when the bracket comes out, we'll definitely link our bracket challenge in some of our pods. Last year, we
Yep.
did a 25 gift card of your choosing to the winner. You just, me and Kyle will pay for it. We'll send it to you. But we'll get that out pretty soon as well because everybody's, that dude in the office that maybe, I don't know, doesn't do his job all the time. Like, all your friends, your uncles, people that come out of the woodworks, they all want you to join your bracket pool. We're no different. We want you to join ours too and watch some hoops and put a bracket in. And hey, a $25 gift card of your choosing. Why the hell not?
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe we'll even up the ante this year. We haven't even talked
Oh,
about it
I
yet.
think you're okay.
So we're
You
gonna
can
figure
if
it
you
out.
want.
We can figure it out. It's gonna be at least a $25 gift card. So definitely make sure you join our bracket pool. We're gonna link to that probably pretty soon, probably within the next few days here before conference tournament starts, because I know people are going to want to join that, and there's probably going to be some people who don't realize they want to do one until after the bracket comes out. So we're going to get ahead of the curve and make sure we post about that. So yeah, Cope, any final thoughts here before we depart?
Well, Kyle, next week when we record, whenever night that may be, I think we're going to try to do Monday or Tuesday night. I'm going to be in New York. I'm going to be back in the New York groove, Kyle. I'm headed up Monday night. I am going to cover the Atlantic 10 tournament for its entirety and will be there for the Big East tournament as long as Villanova is there. I've never done that before. I'm hoping to get into the Ivy League tournament as well, Saturday and Sunday on Columbia's campus, and just be here, there, and everywhere in New York City, watching a bunch of basketball, coming to a bunch of conference tournaments. So, obviously, with the brackets not set, it's a little hard to forecast like where I'll be at what times, but really excited to go up there, network, meet people, tell people about what we do, and just go and watch basketball and cover the greatest sport in the world. So I'm very, very lucky I get to be able to do that, and I'm very excited, Kyle. I will be in New York from Monday night to Saturday or Sunday night next week, chasing the dream, living the dream, covering conference tournaments in the best sport in the world at the best time of the year.
Hell
Very
yeah.
excited.
Hell yeah. And I will probably be up there for a little bit of that too. Not sure if I'm gonna be able to cover any games yet, but we're gonna figure that out when we get there. But yeah, listen, it's March, Cope. It's March. It's the best time of
There's
year.
nothing better. There's
There
nothing
is
better.
nothing,
Any other answer is wrong.
there's nothing better. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much all we got here. Obviously, I know not a ton besides Drexel and Villanova to go over, but listen, those are the teams that are hopefully going to carry us into March. Maybe we'll get some surprises. We'll see. Um, but listen, Cope, next week we're going to be talking about conference tournaments, and then the week after, we've got Brackets Eve talking about the NCAA tournament. And of course, that will be our episode for that week. So we're very excited to bring you all of that. It's in a very, very exciting time in college basketball. We're going to do the best we can to continue to bring you all this content. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Big Five Pod. As always, make sure you like, subscribe on our YouTube. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Big Five Pod. And of course, make sure you check out our audio only versions on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And with that being said, Cope, I'm gonna see you next week when it's conference tournament time.
That's right. You will.